that brings us nicely then to Julian Assange, who I wanted to discuss with you. So let's go back actually then and sort of lay out what happened to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. So he is, when did they start actually? That's a really good question. Do you know?
Well, this has been going on for about 10 years now, approaching 10 years. So he essentially sought asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, and he's been basically persecuted ever since then. In 2019, April 11th of 2019, he was dragged out of the embassy and arrested by British police. And for the past year, throughout 2020, there were extradition hearings. I covered those in London, broken up into two parts. And the judge, miraculously, I couldn't believe it when I heard her deny the request, but she did deny the United States extradition request. But Assange is still in Belmarsh prison right now because the High Court is determining whether or not they're going to hear this case on appeal, because the United States has appealed the judge's decision. And then this case is either going to be heard at the High Court, or if they do accept the appeal, if they do not accept the appeal, then Assange will be set free and able to go home with his family. But again, just to backtrack a little bit, Julian Assange, of course, is the founder of WikiLeaks, an award-winning journalist who is facing 175 years in prison for his publishing in public interest reporting through WikiLeaks. And he is in London, and there was extradition hearings that I mentioned, and it wasn't necessarily the trial. A lot of times people get confused and think that this was a trial. It wasn't. It was hearings to get him to the United States, where he would then face a trial in the US. So far, that's not going to happen, but it could be overturned on appeal.
I mean, I don't think it would be a trial in the way that we imagine it if we got to America.
No.
I get the feeling that the Espionage Act would be employed, and I can't see it even being broadcast, or I would say it'd be behind closed doors, unreported on, and then classified very rapidly. And mainly for someone who has spoken the truth, and like they've never had to retract a thing. I still struggle to get people to realize the gravity of that. Like, given how much they've reported on, given how much they've published, like the fact that they haven't retracted anything, nothing have they lied about. And these are the people that are being prosecuted.
I know, it's so ironic, but you're exactly right. WikiLeaks has a 100% accuracy rate in reporting. It has never had to retract a statement ever. And the journalism that Julian Assange has done through WikiLeaks has won him numerous journalism awards, yet it is still that very journalism that has him in a UK prison today. So while so much of the time we hear about how China and Russia and Iran violate human rights, let's talk about it happening in the West, because it does happen, and we're seeing it right before our eyes with the case of Julian Assange and also Craig Murray in Scotland.
I mean, as far as I was aware, it was technically illegal for them to drag him out of the embassy in the way they did. Am I right there?
Well, what happened is that the Ecuadorian, let me backtrack. So he had asylum and citizenship in Ecuador because he was in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. And that asylum and that citizenship was revoked. And then British police were invited into the embassy and arrested him. But you're correct. Initially, when I saw the video, I thought, how could they just go into the British police cannot just go into the embassy of another country. That would be literally an act of war. But they were able to do so. They were invited in. And then, as I said, the citizenship and asylum was revoked. So it was a coordinated effort between the US, the UK, and Ecuador.
Yeah. I mean, people aren't going to be spending or using that much organization and resources in order to lock up a man who is, telling lies.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing there. So why do you think that, given the sort of left-wing propensity to say they want to speak truth to power and they want to challenge corruption and tear down the system, and someone comes along that stands with all of those values, speaks the truth, exposes corruption, and yet the left seem to have, not entirely. There's still a lot of sort of firebrand progressives fight in his corner, but like there seems to be very little people who actually care about Julian Assange's case. Why do you think that is? Like, why is this not more significant? Like, I remember the outrage when Jamal Khashoggi was killed by the Saudi Arabian dictatorship, but when two democracies decide they're going to lock up a journalist for printing the truth, there doesn't seem to be like proportionate outrage.
Yeah, we're not seeing perhaps as much coverage in the mainstream press as we have with other cases, and definitely not as much coverage as we would like. But over the past 2 years since his arrest, we've seen so much more support for Julian Assange and for WikiLeaks since his arrest. And there have been people in the mainstream press who have covered his case and have said that charging him under the Espionage Act for his journalism is wrong. I've heard a few people speak out about it. Again, not as much as we would like, but we're not some fringe group of people who support Julian Assange. It's very mainstream in my view. If you take a step back and you look, every single major civil liberties union in an organization, civil liberties organization in the world is supporting Julian Assange's release and for the United States to drop the charges. All of them, just about all of them. So that's very significant. There have also been several politicians and even world leaders who have called on the United States to drop the charges for Assange to be set free and also compensated. And another point here is that the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, Niels Melzer, has officially reported that Assange has been subjected to psychological torture. That's also very significant. And he wrote letters to the UK government to intervene because they're required to conduct an investigation. I still don't think they have after almost 2 years now. But the support for him has started out very grassroots, I will say, but we've seen it expand up into even people in positions of power. So we're not in a minority by any means.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, or sign up to our mailing list. Thanks a lot to our sponsor, ExpressVPN, the #1 most trusted VPN. Get lightning fast connectivity with servers in 160 locations across 94 countries. Keep your browsing privacy safe with ExpressVPN and get a 35% discount on 12 months of ExpressVPN when you follow the link in the description below. Don't forget my book is now out and available to order on Amazon and on bookshop.org. That's Brexit, the Establishment Civil War. And most importantly, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.